drinking a Mountain Dew in a video where I'm defending Xbox, the irony is not lost on me. But before I get the dislikes and before everybody comes out the woodworks laughing at me, pointing fingers and saying, what an idiot, I just ask that you watch the video and we have an intelligent conversation in the comments. But this is YouTube, so that's not gonna happen. Leave those comments. Why Microsoft will win E3. Now, this is a bit of a hot take. However, for us gamers, it's E3 time. This is the time for hot takes and predictions. And this is my prediction, my bold prediction for E3 this year. Why Microsoft will take it and actually win E3. Hashtag Xbox One, you feel me? But before I get onto this, I do want to state that I think that the likelihood of Microsoft actually coming out winning E3 is probably like 40%, because I think there's a little bit more of a better chance that Nintendo sweeps E3 and like just blows all of our minds, because Nintendo just been what's that? Hitting home runs is what that was. They've been doing really well, so I expect Nintendo to show up at E3 and do pretty well as well. But I also believe that Microsoft will have a good year, and here's why. The first reason is because, like, they just kind of have to, like, bring it at E3 this year, you know what I mean? They've been behind Sony for the entire console generation. They've got a lot of ground to make up, and they've got a lot to prove. Sony's been having an amazing generation with the Sony PlayStation 4, and for good reason. They really capitalized. They set up the PS4 really well last generation with the PlayStation 3, and now they've hit a home run with the PS4 and the Xbox One. I mean, just from the jump, when they announced the two consoles, Xbox really shot themselves in the foot. Maybe even the head. But even though all that happened, I still think there's a chance for them to at least come back and have some good faith with the gamer, because that's what PlayStation did, if you recall, in the last generation. People seem to forget how not that long ago, PlayStation was getting their ass beat by Xbox, and Xbox had failing consoles. Literally, if you knew a person in real life that had an Xbox 360, there is a 9 out of 10 chance that they also had a broken 360 at one point. And Xbox still beat Sony. That's how bad Sony fucked up. But towards the end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle, we ended up getting great games like Demon's Souls, Uncharted, the series, Last of Us. They ended up doing so much greatness towards the end of the PlayStation 3's life cycle that it set up really well for the PS4. This shit's about to die, really? The next reason why I think Microsoft will win E3 is because for the past few years, they've been relatively quiet. Now, this one is just me wishful thinking, but I would imagine throughout all this time, they've been working diligently on creating new exciting titles for Xbox, creating new exciting exclusives for Xbox, and working with other developers that aren't necessarily first party to create great games for the Xbox. Because there was a time where Xbox didn't have like great exclusives, like they had the Call of Duty exclusivity, they had Halo and stuff like that. But Microsoft really started a lot of that indie wave that made it so mainstream with the Xbox 360 and games like Bastion that came to the Xbox Arcade and stuff like that. And I think that they could do something similar, and they have shown doing something similar with the development of Cuphead, which they funded, and Cuphead remaining a Windows exclusive on the Xbox and PC. I think that for the past few years now, they've been doing similar deals like that and working and pouring millions into the development of these games, because quite frankly, they're just like, I don't know about losing to the homeboys named Sony one time, which, let's be real, even if they do everything amazingly, they still probably can't catch up to Sony. However, it's an interesting prospect. Next up, Microsoft this generation has done a lot of things that they really didn't need to do, but they've done to show good faith to the gamer, because they realized that when they announced the Xbox One originally, it didn't seem like what gamers wanted out of a gaming device. It seemed like they wanted to do all this crazy shit that was frankly too early at the time. Like, I think what Microsoft was presenting at that point is where the future is going to be for gaming eventually, but it just came way too soon. So Microsoft had to do a lot of backpedaling, and they introduced a lot of things that are frankly really dope for gamers, and stuff that Sony doesn't have to worry about because they're so far ahead in the lead. Like, why would they worry about anything? Why would they pour money into other things and take losses on certain features and stuff when frankly they don't have to? For example, Microsoft just unveiled their new handicap accessible controller, so people that have disabilities or that can't use a controller normally are able to play games easier. Totally didn't have to do that. How many of those do you think they're actually going to sell? Probably not that many, but they made it anyway because there's people out there that could really use that, and they just did it. And their backwards compatibility, by the way, is amazing. They essentially built a full-fledged working Xbox 360 emulator on the Xbox One, and that is probably like one of the coolest, one of the best things Xbox has done. And every time I bring this up, a lot of people are always like, oh, look at you, bruh, you're playing games on your Xbox One that came out last gen. I'm playing Horizon, bitch. And it's just like, I mean, yeah, you're right, but also you're the same person getting hype off of the Spyro trilogy, though. If there was more backwards compatibility, you wouldn't need to necessarily get excited about remakes and re-releases, though, right? Like, for example, there's a new Red Dead Redemption game coming out. Everybody loves Red Dead Redemption, right? Well, I have never played the original Red Dead Redemption, and Rockstar is not releasing a Red Dead Redemption remake. At least we don't think so, not yet. So how am I gonna play this game? Like, you want me to take out an Xbox 360? You want me to play it on an original PS3? I'm sorry? It's 2018. Who do you take me for? But with the Xbox One, I go to GameStop, get the disc for like fucking less than 10 bucks, and I get to play it. And GameStop runs all these deals and shit where it's like, you buy 2 Xbox 360 games, you get 500 free or something. So I like got a ton of Xbox 360 games, and I can just pop them in my Xbox One and just play them. It's genius. It's amazing. Meanwhile, Sony, you know, they bought like Gaikai for like 300 billion or something, and I mean, I'm gonna be honest, PlayStation Now is big trash. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to use it before. It's not great. Another thing that Xbox has opened up to is cross-platform play. They seem to be very adamant and very open to allowing like Fortnite, Rocket League, and all that stuff to play with PC, Nintendo Switch, and even PS4, their main competitor, while Sony remains firm against this. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest. I believe if Microsoft were in Sony's shoes, they would also be doing the same thing. When you have such a large lead like that, Sony would really benefit from, because they just have more consoles out there. Like, if there's a group of friends and one of the friends doesn't have a console yet, they're like, hey man, we're all on PS4, but the other guy's like, but like my gamer score, like I like Xbox, I like the controller better, I like this better, you know, whatever. And because there's no cross-platform, he's forced to get a PS4 now. Whereas if there was cross-platform play, like I could be happy on my Xbox and play with my friends on PS4 and nobody would be none the wiser. So when you're in the lead, like it's, especially as a business, it's hard to make like a virtuous move like that. Like, okay, we're for the people looking ass. Like, I completely understand why Sony won't do this one, but it is a positive in Microsoft's, column. There we go. And the last thing they've done this generation, and probably the biggest thing they've done this generation, besides maybe backwards compatibility, is the Game Pass. I don't know if you guys know what the Game Pass is, but I legitimately don't know how this got approved. For $10 a month, you get to choose between like hundreds of games and just play them for free. It's like PlayStation Now, if PlayStation Now wasn't doo-doo, because PlayStation Now, you have to stream the games. Xbox Game Pass, you download them locally. So there is no streaming shit. You don't gotta worry about that. It's Netflix for games, bro. And this always seemed like a very interesting concept that I never thought would be possible, because games, they're so expensive, right? Like, how could you have a game that you sell for 60 bucks be available to somebody that just pays $10 a month? It doesn't make any sense. And they're firm on this, and Xbox exclusives, granted there's not a lot of them, but Xbox exclusive games release and you can get them with Xbox Game Pass. What? And this is a blessing, because Sea of Thieves came out this year and I was very interested in that game, and I had Xbox Game Pass and I really wanted to try out Sea of Thieves. If I would have bought that game for 60 bucks, I'd have jumped out my window. But because I had the Game Pass, I was able to try it out, see if I liked it. And guess what? Even if I did like it, I just got to keep the shit. So Xbox Game Pass, it's amazing. It really is amazing. Things that Xbox have done have really won me over. And that's why, like, I come to defend them so much, is because I think that they deserve defending. They deserve credit for all the great things they've done this generation. However, a lot of people also talk to me and they're like, all right, so they've done great things in the past, this time the third, but what can they really show you? What can they really do at E3 that's going to make them win? You told us why you think they're gonna come out with great things, why you think they could win, but what can they actually do? Because let's face it, Microsoft doesn't have a Zelda, a Mario, a Nathan Drake, a Joel, a Ellie, a Crash Bandicoot. Like, they don't have that, right? The closest thing they had to it was Halo, and they pretty much killed Halo. Halo 5 ain't looking great, but if they had a Halo 6 that played more like the original Halos, like an actual arena shooter, that could get people more excited. However, unfortunately, I think the ship has sailed on Halo as a whole. Even if they were to make a Halo that played like Halo 3 or Halo 2, I think the market for that is just completely gone now, unfortunately. But maybe Halo Battle Royale, who knows? But here's what I think that they could do to have a great conference. Literally just throw an empty check at the Cuphead developers and tell them to do whatever they want, so long as their next game is on your platform exclusively again. Cuphead took the world by storm. It was an amazing game, great effort from an indie developer, and they deserve a fat paycheck, and Microsoft would be stupid to let them go multi-platform. They need to secure Cuphead and make sure that their next game is on Microsoft platforms. And extending on from that, they should throw money at second party or even third party developers to get exclusive content to their platform. And by exclusive content, I don't necessarily mean like timed exclusivity or like they get the Call of Duty fucking map packs first or whatever. Like, I'm talking about, if you could secure Tomb Raider and keep Tomb Raider on Xbox, that's huge. Because I know a lot of people, it's crazy because like Uncharted copied off Tomb Raider, but now Tomb Raider's copying off Uncharted. But I legitimately think Tomb Raider is a phenomenal game series, and if they just threw a fat check at the devs, maybe, just maybe, they could secure that and make things work. And also Ori and the Blind Forest, those developers made an amazing platforming game. Secure those guys, secure people like that are making great games, and build that brand for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a time where Sony didn't have a Spyro to relax on like they did in the PS1 era. There was a time where Sony didn't have those iconic characters, same thing with Nintendo, but they had to build it. You can do that now. Tomb Raider can be associated with the Xbox brand, which would be interesting because Tomb Raider was on the PS1 originally, but you catch my drift. Ori can be associated with the Xbox brand. Cuphead associated with the Xbox brand. You can do that. You have to start now though. Now, a big reason why conferences like Nintendo and Sony have the potential to knock it out of the park every single year is because they have one huge thing that Microsoft does not have, and that is the nostalgia. It wasn't in the 90s and early 2000s when we were all on our fucking Xboxes or whatever. We were all on PlayStation 1s or Nintendo 64s or SNESs or something like that. And we grew up with these characters as a part of our childhood, and they were huge parts of our childhood. So when we see that brought back again, we're like, yo, that's so dope, because it takes us back, you know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, Xbox doesn't have that power. However, they do have a bit of it. They have Rare, and they have the ability to release Rare titles, and they did something like that with the Rare Replay collection. However, let's one up that a little bit. Crash Insane Trilogy, massively successful. Stupidly successful. That shit was all over the internet for a solid month. Spyro Trilogy gets announced, all over the internet yet again. Absolutely on fire. Imagine a Banjo collection, completely remastered, looks gorgeous. Conker's Bad Fur Day, other Rare classics like that, remastered and redone, brought back, exclusive to Microsoft platforms. That would be huge. Conker's Bad Fur Day is one of my favorite games of all time. In fact, Conker's Bad Fur Day might be my most played game on N64 of all time, because they had that versus mode. I don't know if you guys have ever played that versus mode of Conker's Bad Fur Day, but me and my friends put countless hours into that. And I know for me personally, Conker's Bad Fur Day would get me sold. I know Banjo would get probably the more majority of people sold, but I never really liked Banjo, so Conker would be huge. But again, they have those Rare titles under their belt. They can do that. And then after you release these remasters, you gauge how well did they do. If they do pretty well for you, now you have these titles to work with where you can bank in on that nostalgia while you're still building your brand with other games such as Tomb Raider or In the Blind Forest, Cuphead, stuff like that. So like the next year, you can be like, all right, dope, Banjo 3 is coming out. You know, you show that shit at the next E3. The crowd, everybody commits mass suicide. Conker's Bad Fur Day. I am on suicide watch immediately if that happens. But the most important thing you'd have to do here is because the Rare that they have is not the same Rare that made those games. You're gonna have to get very passionate developers, and this is possible because look at Sonic Mania. Sonic Mania wasn't made by the original people that made Sonic. It was made by passionate fans that love the game and know what makes those games good. Those dudes got hired, made the best Sonic game in like a decade. You also have to understand, Microsoft, that you are playing from a very, very low position. You're behind right now, very, very behind. And to be honest, you're likely not gonna catch up. You need to look towards the future at this point. It's like in the NBA. When the Golden State Warriors form their super team and you're like a mid-range team, you gotta start looking around like, well, shit, I guess let's look forward to the 5 years in the future, I guess. You got to do something similar. Build the brand loyalty. Keep doing things like the Xbox Game Pass, like backwards compatibility. Keep doing that stuff that keeps people on your side, and then bring in heaters like exclusive new shit that you could be working on, hopefully you are working on, and banking in on that little bit of nostalgia you actually do have, because nostalgia power is huge right now, and Microsoft, you'd be completely idiotic to not capitalize on it. Also, I'm just gonna throw this in there. Please redo the Xbox UI. It's horrendous. Even as somebody that plays on my Xbox pretty regularly, I get lost sometimes, dude. But just please redo it. And to close off this video, I just want to talk about my biggest worry with Xbox, I guess. And I think the biggest takeaway from Xbox that you could say is that all the exclusives and stuff that they get, largely almost every one of them, is also available on PC, which would not help sell Xboxes. Like the Xbox brand suffers because you can play whatever you want to on a PC. However, some things that people don't really take into account is that I'm talking about Microsoft here, and if their PC does well, then Microsoft is doing well. And Microsoft has so much money, they can keep pumping it into the Xbox brand if they wanted to, and just have that home console just there for whatever reason they'd like, I guess. But I think that's the biggest deterring factor for Xbox right now. but I genuinely and honestly believe they finally have enough ammunition. They've been storing things for so long that they finally have everything lined up to make a splash at E3. And I think this might be their last chance to save themselves in this generation. Not that they're doing like horribly or anything. They don't necessarily need to be saved. But if they want to do better, I think this is their last chance to do so. Because frankly, I think next year, Sony's going to have a hell of a conference because all the games they're showing this year will probably be out or be close to out. So they need to start showing new stuff, right? And then Nintendo, their Switch is still pretty early. So they're going to have hitters next year too. And it's going to be very difficult to compete. I think now is the time to strike. And I think everything has lined up with them having the nostalgia power from Rare. They could have been working on that stuff for God knows how long, and with pouring money into new developers, indie developers that could have been working on stuff in the background. If all that is true, it all culminates to this year where they can really make a bang. Maybe I'm wrong and Microsoft will have a shit conference, or maybe I'm wrong and Sony will actually show new shit, and then no matter what Microsoft does, they get blown out anyway. Anything could happen here, but I believe this is Microsoft's best shot, and I'm believing in them this year, and I think that they have a strong chance at winning E3. Anyway, that's my case. You haven't disliked and called me a bunch of obscenities already. What do you think about Microsoft potentially winning E3? What are your E3 predictions? Frankly, I think you'd be a smart man if you bet on Nintendo to take this. After that though, I really do have Microsoft in this one. I think Sony's gonna have another weak conference this year, but that's just me. Let me know what you guys think. I just love games and I like to talk about them. Don't kill me. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, maybe leave a like, subscribe. I don't know. I mean, I'm only begging you.